In this slide, I'm going to cover just the agenda of cases to come. And in theory, I use a term called next level. In distribution, because it's a process industry, yeah, most players in distribution, they all do the same stuff, but the level of excellence is markedly different. But a lot of people don't necessarily see that. So I might say, look, I know you're already doing this, but how do you take it to the next level? Well, what do you mean? What we're doing isn't good enough. They just have trouble having a concept of the path of mastery and what is black belt, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh degree, as opposed to, well, actually, maybe we're only at yellow belt or green belt or brown belt type of thing. Also, this suggests a logical order, in other words, chronological or sequential. If you really know what you're doing in a turnaround situation in nichonomics, you could be doing all of these things in parallel, sort of spinning more plates, if you will. But I think, to keep it simple and take one step at a time, what we're going to do is start off with some case studies on how do we initially identify all of the small, growing nowhere, not entrepreneurs, they're just sort of self-employed creatures that survive by working 80 hours a week and kind of cheating their taxes and not making much money, but they're there. And because we have one standard service model, we tend to over-service and underprice these creatures. And so how do we identify them, get them over into a new division that's got a different service model, realizing that some of them may well leave. If we raise prices and strip out services, they're going to say, well, this isn't as good as it used to be. If I have an extra best alternative, I'm going to go for it. And maybe we have a competitor who doesn't know any better, and they still want to give over service. These growing nowhere minnows. So be it. Some of them may say, well, actually, given that, I might as well just go buy it at the wholesale club or the Walmart or someplace because it's closer or just it's whatever. So, but some clearly will stay, and how do we take care of them and get them to buy more and do it all on a profitable basis? So how do we, and then if we do that, how do we track the activity slack that we're freeing up, and how does that get productively redeployed is another part of that question. A second category then would be once we get rid of or stop the bleeding by 1,000 nicks from wholesale minnow customers, that gives us more time and energy to do a better job for our core customers. So it's easier to go out to our best customers and say, we love you, can we do more for you, than it is to go out to big losing customers and say, you know what, we're losing money and we want to change how we're doing business. That's scary to a lot of people. So, and when we do the core customers, part and parcel of that is actually sort of saying, oh, here are 5 customers who are all similar birds of a feather in the same niche. Let's do a better job of defining the niche and the metrics for the niche and tuning the fill rate so that we can actually improve our service value proposition. So it is clearly head and shoulders the best amongst other competitors who are decathletes. They're trying to be all things to all people, so they're not brilliant at any one given event. And then from a position of strength, we can say, hey, let's retune our relationship. And by the way, let's get married. Let's do all, let's do why don't you buy all your stuff from us? Stop playing the bid, bark, and buy game. And as we go out and audit our best customers, they actually are our best customers and most profitable because they're very disciplined supply chain buyers within themselves. Because they're so disciplined, we as a happy byproduct make more money. So we'll actually get ideas from how well they run their purchasing discipline and philosophies that we can then go share with losing customers. Now we may or not be able to sort of say specifically this other customer of ours is doing exactly these things, but we certainly can take those best practices and cross-pollinate to the customers that aren't as supply chain functional. So once we've gotten savvy with all these core customers, then we can go out and focus on the big losing ones, and we'll start with the easiest ones, the open-minded, friendly, progressive kind of people. Cherry pickers are actually pretty easy to deal with. They're very cantankerous and bullies and so forth, but because we have the cherries, they still have to buy from us. So we'll look at a few of those. We will come up with closed-minded people who just don't care out of apathy, or they're sort of bullies, but they're hiding Um, some underlying sort of personal quirky agenda. In other words, they're protesting too much. So what are they really defensive about? And each one of them is a sort of a peculiar psychological case that we have to crack. And we will run into some institutional apathy, where people say intellectually, I understand what you're saying, it makes perfect sense, and I realize my company is doing terribly, but you know what? I don't care, and nobody can put a glove on me, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Sorry. And then lastly, we'll look at target accounts. Actually, once we have service excellence, or even without service excellence, once in a while, if you know how to approach them and how to sell them, they're not so hard to crack in some cases. But anyway, that's the lineup we'll go through. So let's start by looking at wholetail division spin-off case studies. Thanks.